Hey guys, Weir here with roadtoruta.com. I got a Bitcoin update for you. A lot of action in the Bitcoin world these days. Prices going crazy. Jumped up over 1,300, jumped back down under 1,100. All this has to do with the approval or the denial of the first Bitcoin ETF. This is the ETF run by the Winklevoss twins. It is a big thing for most of like the mainstream Bitcoin world. In the long run, it's not going to matter, but it will really give a boost to the amount of money available to purchase Bitcoin in the mainstream. So yeah, it has the potential to really boost the price, like double or triple the price of Bitcoin over the next coming weeks. So yeah, now is the time you want to be all loaded up. Now it could go down too if it's denied, which some people are speculating it will be because they believe that the U.S. government is anti-bank. Anti-Bitcoin because of the banks, and the banks have all the power, and those that believe that the bad guys are still in control will be expecting this not to be approved. I do think it will be approved. Actually, it might even be a no decision. A no decision, according to the SEC rules, if they don't even comment on it by, I think it's by Monday is the last time that they have to comment on it. If they don't comment on it, then it's automatically approved. So that's a good thing, and it might kind of save face for the SEC, as in they won't blame themselves if anything goes wrong in the Bitcoin universe. Anyway, that decision needs to be made. The actual day is on Saturday because of the SEC rules, it can either be announced today or on Monday. So be prepared for that, but don't try to play the dip. If it's get denied, it might go for a dip. It might be a forced dip by these hedge funds. According to some people, over $100 million is ready to flow in on a dip. Some of these hedge funds just want to load up when people start running for the hills. So one way or the other, Bitcoin's headed to the moon this year. But if this ETF is approved, we're talking maybe double or triple in the coming weeks for Bitcoin. So now is the time. On a note, the Road to Ruta private road membership, I offer Bitcoin advice on how to set up a Bitcoin wallet, how to buy your first Bitcoin, and get the ball rolling as far as you getting your hands on Bitcoin. Now is the time to do it. If you've been waiting and sitting around, don't wait anymore. There's no reason to wait anymore. You don't have to buy a lot. Buy $10 worth of Bitcoin, buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, or load up, buy 10 grand worth of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's going nowhere but up, and it is not even close to being a bubble. It will probably never be a bubble, but the characteristics of a bubble are walking down your street and your neighbor says, "Hey, did you buy any Bitcoin today?" So take a walk down your street. If any neighbor jumps out and asks you about Bitcoin, you know it might be in a bubble. And I pretty much guarantee you not many neighbors are going to come out and ask you about Bitcoin. But here's an article from the mainstream news, Fortune magazine, Bitcoin may go boom. Of course, the negative guys are saying, oh, boom down. That means it's going to explode and the price of Bitcoin will go to zero and we can go back to gold and silver. No, boom means up in this article. And let me read you a couple passages. It says Bitcoin is at a critical juncture. It's not at a critical juncture. It's at a critical juncture for people in the mainstream who invest in mainstream stocks and bonds, because they might have an opportunity to participate in their 401ks and their funds and things like that. Anyway, Bitcoin is at a critical juncture. Anytime now, the SEC will issue a decision that could throw open the door to a flood of new capital and change how many investors regard the digital currency. Ooh. And it's true. It's true. I mean, many investors too. What does that mean? Many investors it's the mainstream. It's where all that capital is right now. It's the alternative investors that are buying Bitcoin before this happens and getting Bitcoin into their own hands. They don't want a third party holding their Bitcoin. If you buy into the ETF thing, you don't own that Bitcoin. It's between you and 1,000 counterparties for you ever to get that Bitcoin. And you'll have to rely on selling it and going out and buying your own Bitcoin on the blockchain, because none of this stuff is being traded on the blockchain. The ETFs are traded on the exchanges, meaning they're converted into stocks, and the stocks are traded back and forth. How they're going to deal with the influx of new Bitcoin and where they're going to get it, I have not a lot of ideas. The Winklevoss twins think they know what they're doing, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They've done well so far in Bitcoin, and the only thing that really scares me about this ETF is Virtu Financial is one of the authorized participants. And Virtu Financial, I've talked about a lot in the past. Vincent Viola, the guy just backed down as being the head of the Army, is a market rigger trained by Robert Rubin. His company, he's got this company that never had a loss in like 3 years. Complete criminal. He even looks like a criminal if you ask me. But he was in the silver ETF SLV and the GLD, and that's how they play part. It's one of the tools of gold and silver market manipulation. It's done with computers and derivatives, and that's what his company does, is rig the markets via computers and derivatives. So this article goes on to say the SEC decision, which is over 3 years in the making, is due by Friday. That's not true. It's actually due by Monday. Here's a plain English guide to what might happen, including why the decision is so important and how it could affect the Bitcoin price. And it says, what is the SEC decision? The agency must decide if BATS stock exchange, BATS, which is a great stock exchange. That's the stock exchange that slows down the trade so you can't mess around with computers. So that might be a good thing for slowing down the computer manipulation of Virtu Financial being involved in this. BATS stock exchange and can change its rules to offer a Bitcoin ETF, which would let people buy Bitcoin like a common stock. The ETF, called Winklevoss Bitcoin Trust ETF, is a creation of the Winklevoss brothers, who once fought Mark Zuckerberg for control of Facebook. We've all seen the movie. But yeah, they were early adopters of Bitcoin. Supposedly they have, like, somebody said 500,000 or 600,000 Bitcoin in their possession, which makes them one of the very largest holders of Bitcoin. I think behind Satoshi Nakamoto, his original Bitcoin mining, which is about 1 million coins, I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I believe those Bitcoin, that Bitcoin wallet is safe for the American people. And because the CIA and NSA and all those guys were involved so early in on Bitcoin, I do think this is part of the transition from the old system to the new system in Bitcoin. That's why there has been no real laws in the U.S., anti-Bitcoin laws, and they could have shut it down a long time ago. But actually all the laws and discussions are very positive. And especially if this ETF gets approved, that's kind of the stamp of approval for humans within the United States to say the government's not going to stop Bitcoin, like a lot of the bad guys are in charge. There's no way they'll let it happen. Well, those guys are being proved wrong every day now with Trump. And yes, they're still rigging the markets. And it pisses me off to no end to see Steve Mnuchin sitting there rigging the markets with computers that he brought the programs over from Goldman Sachs. That was his job. At Goldman was the computer market rigger. He was the head of IT, and that's the only reason he's there, sitting as the head of the U.S. Treasury. I think he will be taken out at some point. But Trump is trying to fix things before he lets the system go. And the market manipulation is a huge part of that. You can't rig a market for over 50 years and just let it go and expect to solve all these other problems. So I think Trump is trying to solve other problems first before he solves the big problem, the number one problem, which is market manipulation and rigging of prices such as gold and silver. But Bitcoin is kind of out there on its own. So Bitcoin, if you haven't got a Bitcoin wallet yet, go to roadtoruta.com, sign up for a private road membership, and I give you all the instructions on how to do it. Or just go to YouTube and look up in the search function, how do I open a Bitcoin wallet? And how do I buy my first Bitcoin? I use Coinbase. I know a lot of people are happy and not happy about Coinbase. They're happy when they get their coins. They're sad when there's any issue because their customer service is non-existent, basically. But everybody I've heard of who has used Coinbase and had to go through customer service says it takes forever, but ultimately they did get their coins and everything worked out well in the end. I'm not saying that's everybody that's ever participated with them, but they're pretty good at that. They are legit. They will take your information for government purposes. There's not a lot of ways around that without dealing in the banking system. You can go to local Bitcoin meetup areas and buy Bitcoin, physical Bitcoin, in a paper wallet or just right out on your phone from individuals. That way you don't have to go through a bank and bring cash and do it if you're scared of the government. But I think our government is going to be very pro-Bitcoin going forward, especially if they approve this ETF. And if they do approve the ETF, you're going to see the price of Bitcoin double, triple, quadruple over the next few weeks. Not months, weeks. So yeah, it's a big deal, and you should be all loaded up on Bitcoin already. Now, if they don't approve it and the price gets slammed down, which is the plan of some of these market riggers, to wait for the news, then slam down the price of Bitcoin to under $1,000, under $800, and then load back up so that they have more Bitcoin for the next run up, that's fine too. You just got to ride this thing out. Nobody knows. Well, some people do know, but I have an inkling that they will either approve it or it will have a no decision. A no decision will kind of keep it in limbo whether or not the U.S. government is approving of Bitcoin or not. But what it would do is it would approve this ETF. And that's according to the SEC, that's the way the law is written. If there's no decision, then it is approved. So really excited, but it would still leave that little question mark up in the air of whether or not Bitcoin is going to be embraced by the regulatory agencies. And judging from the way that the Trump takedown of the bad guys is going, it does seem to be going a lot slower than I would have wished. So if I had to bet on what's the decision, what the decision is going to be, I would say it's going to be no decision, which would approve the ETF, but still leave the lingering question going forward. And then Bitcoin would get a nice little bump, maybe double or triple, but not go completely ballistic, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a coin yet. My price timeline, I've got Bitcoin nearing 10,000 by the end of the year. It's at what, 1,200 right now. So there's a lot of excitement in Bitcoin this week and a lot of excitement in the markets. Next week, crazy stuff is going on. I'll put some videos out on that, and just go to the private road section. I talk about it all this week in the Friday road trip. And again, get your Bitcoin. Don't wait. Now is not the time to be sitting on the sidelines. I've been saying it for 3 years now. Get involved with Bitcoin. You're going to be involved someday anyway. You're going to be out there buying Bitcoin when it's $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a coin. I am too, because it's going to be part of our financial system. And Cliff High's data has it going out well past this century. So imagine what kind of returns you're going to get in 85 years. What, $10, $20 billion per Bitcoin? Wouldn't that be nice? Anyway, this is Big Weir. Go to roadtoruta.com, click subscribe, click like, the little thumbs up thing. Give me a thumbs up, and send this via Twitter all around. Twitter is a lot of fun for me and Donald Trump lately. So send this video around and buy Bitcoin now.